many of you here in this room have watched Breaking Bad? Oh, this is great. Okay, keep your hands up, please, if you've watched it. But please, the other people who haven't, please put your hands up if you have heard of Breaking Bad. And for those of you who are neither, keep your hand up if you intend to watch Breaking Bad. Well, I think that's 100% of the room. Do we agree? Do we think that it's the best show on television that you've ever seen? Yeah? Okay. Are you interested in hearing about what the founder of Breaking Bad has to say about the creative process and the economics of television? Let's just remind ourselves a little bit about what Breaking Bad was all about. Let's roll the tape.
I have an offer that I think will be of interest to you.
You know why I do this.
A man provides for his family.
You're a drug dealer.
I'm a manufacturer, I'm not a dealer. What did you expect me to do? Just simply roll over? That I wouldn't take extreme measures to defend myself? They're going to kill me. Jesse, do it now! Do it!
The devil is in the details, okay? One little mistake, one slip-up in our story, that could ruin us.
I have lived under the threat of death for a year now. I alone should suffer the consequences of those choices, no one else. And those consequences, they're coming. I will kill your wife. I will kill your son. I will kill your infant daughter. Get me in a room with him, and I'll do the rest.
Admit you're in danger.
Who is it you think you see? I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. We've got work to do.
You okay?
Yeah, right as rain.
We'd just like to give you a big Roman Festival of Media welcome. So everybody, please, welcome.
How you doing?
Vince, we have friends here and sponsors from the Guinness World Record book. And I noticed this morning that in the book, Breaking Bad is the most critically rated television program of all time. I don't know whether you knew that.
I was very pleased to hear that. That was some very exciting news. I think we're right next to the man with the world's largest tumor, but it's very exciting.
Well, that's quite fitting in a way, given the storyline of Walter White. So the first question really is, when did you know that this was going to become a success? When did it dawn on you during the process that, oh my God, I've got something very special on my hands?
You know, I hate to admit that it took me a while to figure out that we really. I mean, I didn't realize that other people liked the show as much as I did, and as much as the folks who worked with me on the show did. Probably until about season 3. Our first couple of seasons, our fear was at the end of every season that we would be canceled. And it wasn't probably until about season 3 that we started to breathe easier, as it were, and feel like we were probably going to be in it for the long run. The long run, of course, in the end of it all, meant 62 episodes, 5 seasons. But it took a while to reduce that fear of cancellation that we felt at the end of every year.
So it was only until the 3rd series that you were worried that you might, not get scrapped by AMC. Wow. And that was after what? 16, 20 episodes?
Let's see, 13, 26, about 33, 34 episodes, something like that. About halfway through the run, actually.
And your first series got, only on AMC, about just over 1 million viewers?
I believe that is correct. We we were lucky that AMC was just starting off as a network with scripted shows, and that their expectations were not as high as they are indeed now. They're much higher now. If we were going on the air with 1 million viewers at this point in time, we would be canceled pretty quickly.
And so you started with 1.3 million. How did that rise? So where did you end up in terms of ratings for the finale?
The finale episode, to the best of my knowledge, had a little over 10 million viewers. So it was a very nice run in that it seemed to progress kind of logarithmically. We kept going up with every season. Not in the shape of a skyrocket exactly, but I think we kind of gradually arced up as the years and the episodes progressed.
Well, the skyrocket was social, but we'll come to that later on in our conversation. But what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about the creative process before we talk about all the other stuff. And I think what people here are just intrigued and interested to learn about is, where did the idea originally come from?
It was it's always hard to say where an idea comes from, but I remember the exact moment it hit me. I was talking to a buddy of mine that I had attended college with, NYU Film School with, and his name is Tom Schnauz. He and I worked together as writers on The X-Files, which ended its run in about 2002. So about 2004, we had both been out of work for about 2 years. And we were having a phone call, both of us talking to each other, bemoaning the fact that good writing jobs for television like The X-Files were few and far between. And he was making a joke about, what should we do next if we can't find writing gigs. We joked about being greeters at Walmart. We thought we might be good at that. And he joked about putting a meth lab in the back of an RV, back of a caravan, I guess as you say in the UK, and driving all around the southwest of America and making a little money. That was kind of a dark humor joke on his part. But when he said that, the idea, the thought of someone who would do that, someone like us, like my friend Tom and I, who were essentially, although we, goofy senses of humor aside, were very boring, middle-aged, straight arrow in the sense of, not criminal, but law-abiding people. The idea of someone like ourselves actually doing such a thing, I found very intriguing, and all of a sudden, boom, this idea kind of started to grow in my head. It was kind of a eureka moment, which for the writers in the audience there, you folks know that eureka moments are somewhat few and far between. But I kind of got excited at the idea of such a character for whom I didn't yet have a name. He would eventually become Walter White, this character. But I remember when it hit. It's hard to say where it came from. In hindsight, I have to think that I was about to turn 40 years old, and I was about to become officially middle-aged, and I was thinking in terms of midlife crises, perhaps, when I came up with this. When this inspiration hit.
So you've never actually cooked blue crystal meth yourself, then?
No. I have never cooked it nor tried it. It seems like a very nasty substance. It really was not the methamphetamine, the illicit drug that interested me about the story. It was the idea of somebody law-abiding, deciding through sheer force of will and with ostensibly good reasons to become a bad guy, to take our good guy and turn him into a bad guy. That's what interested me. The crystal meth was kind of a placeholder, if you will. It was kind of it was an indicator of criminality, of immorality, and it could have been, it could have been something else, I suppose. It could have been bank robbery or counterfeiting or whatnot. But the nastier the better. And crystal meth is a very nasty, unpleasant drug that hurts a lot of people.
One of the questions that's being tweeted to me from the floor is was there any particular person you had in mind when you wrote Walter White's character? Was he based upon anybody in your life?
No, not really based upon anybody in my life. I guess it's going to sound weird, but in hindsight, I think what I was kind of examining, what I found interesting about this character was that he was, this is going to sound strange, so bear with me, he was kind of me. And by that I mean I had no interest in cooking crystal meth or using it or selling it or any of that. But I've always been kind of a boring, plain vanilla kind of a guy, I guess, truth be told, my whole life. And I think what really interested me in hindsight about this story was, what would it be like? What if, to viscerally, vicariously, I guess vicariously is the better word, to vicariously become a criminal, at least through my writing, if not in reality. It seemed like an interesting exploration to take fictionally on paper. Nothing I would do in real life, but I think that, I guess I was writing in a sense about myself. I have no chemistry expertise, no science expertise. I've never been a teacher, although I've had a lot of teachers in my life, my mom and my girlfriend, Holly, for instance. But I have great respect for them, and I think I was inspired by them a little bit in the idea of him being a teacher. But really I was thinking in terms of, what would it be like to do this for real?
Just go back quickly to the Eureka moment. How did it feel, and what did you do to act upon it?
I was fortunate in that I had a friendship with two gentlemen who run Sony Television, Zach Van Amberg and Jamie Ehrlicht. I had worked on an ill-fated CBS pilot a year or two prior to this Eureka moment, as I say. And it was a pilot we were going to do that never really worked out, but Zach and Jamie, who run the studio at Sony, said to me, open door policy, if you ever have another idea for a TV show, please come to us. We'd love to hear it first. So I took them at their word, and I said, I've got an idea for you guys. And I sat down with them in Culver City in their offices, and I started to pitch Breaking Bad. I don't even think I had a title for it yet, but I said, we open on a pair of pants, flying through space, and then there's this Winnebago comes driving through the desert, and there's a guy in his underpants, and he's wearing a gas mask, and there's bodies sloshing around in some sort of lab. And as I progressed with the pitch, and as I explained the crystal meth and all of that, they looked horrified. They looked like a couple of deer in the headlights. And some little voice, some little internal voice at some point hovering over me was sort of whispering in my ear saying, this was a really bad idea. Pitch into these guys, they hate this thing. But lo and behold, they bought it about a day later, 2 days later. And the rest, as I say, is history.
Very, very much so. So what tips would you give to the people in the audience about selling an idea, which is essentially what you had to do to your colleagues at Sony?
You really do have to be a salesman or saleswoman, as the case may be, when you're a writer, when you're working in this business. We all, I think, have to be salespeople when we are generators of ideas. And I think the best advice, the best starting advice, is be very enthusiastic about your idea. It's hard to fake enthusiasm, and if you're truly feeling it, it becomes easier. Then it becomes, unfortunately, more heartbreaking if you are truly enthusiastic about your idea, your product, and no one seems to be biting at it. No one seems to be buying it. But you really need that passion for what it is you're selling, for that idea that you are possessed by. Hopefully, you are possessed by, and that makes a great deal of difference. Passion, I think, is contagious, and luckily it was in this case, because indeed there was a lot of reasons for these two gentlemen at Sony to not buy this pitch. It was kind of a dangerous pitch. It was about a middle-aged guy. That's strike one. American TV doesn't want to talk about middle-aged anybody. Strike two, he's got cancer, and that's a downer. That's a bummer. Strike three was he's cooking this very nasty drug. A lot of reasons for these folks to pass on this, but luckily my passion and their passion carried the day, I think.
Now, as the idea started to become constructed into reality, you face a lot of issues, one of which is casting and trying to find the right actor to fit your vision of the character, but also the right balance of screenwriters and actors and directors and so on to bring the right creative team together. And that's often where some of the best content ideas fall over. What do you think were the key successes, particularly on the casting process? Because originally you looked at Matthew Broderick for the role, is that right?
Well, typically when a TV show is getting up on its legs, when you're getting it up and running, a wish list of names is generated by some department or other. And to be fair, he's a wonderful actor, Matthew Broderick. There's probably a lot of wonderful actors on this wish list generated by somebody or other at Sony. But I have to say, I was pretty steadfast in my desire for Bryan Cranston from the get-go. I was in fact writing with Bryan Cranston's voice in mind when I was writing that initial episode, that initial pilot. I was very fortunate to have worked with him on an episode of The X-Files about 1999, which was about 5 years before we started doing Breaking Bad, and I really had him in mind. And when we speak of the success of Breaking Bad, so much of it has to be laid at the feet of that wonderful actor, Bryan Cranston. I can't imagine what Breaking Bad would look like with anyone else in that role. I don't believe you would have invited me to technologically appear at your conference today. You would have never heard of Breaking Bad if Bryan Cranston had not played Walter White. It really is. It can't be overstated how important proper casting is in this show or any show, really.
And how much freedom did he have over his character? And did that freedom get greater as the series progressed?
We were a great partnership. First, Bryan and me, myself, we were, when we first started going on that first episode, and then Bryan was an excellent partner to the other actors and to the director of photography, the directors, the other writers. He was as enthusiastic as we all were. He had the same passion that we all felt toward the project, and he had always had freedom to argue his point and to come forth with his ideas, and just as he gave me freedom to do the same, to offer my opinions, and really it was a collaborative effort from beginning to end. That's what I love about television. One of the things I love the most about this job is you get a bunch of talented people who are infused with a passion for the project at hand, hopefully. In this case, everyone was, and you all pull the rope in the same direction, as it were. And sometimes there's good-natured arguments, polite arguments. Sometimes there's differing of opinions as to the best way to go to attain the goals that we wish to attain together. But it was a good-natured, vigorous, energetic collaboration from beginning to end, and we all had the freedom to put forth our best ideas and then argue politely but forcefully for them.
And I hear you were going to kill off the character of Jesse Pinkman after the first series, but after his acting performance you felt that he deserved a wider role, and that in a way has turned that young actor's career into the stratosphere. Explain why your mind was changed about that particular character in the show.
Well, you're exactly right. The character of Jesse Pinkman, my initial thought was to kill him off at the end of the first series because I thought somewhat short-sightedly that the character would have served his purpose by that point. He would have given Walter White entree into this criminal world that he was previously unaware of. Having served that function, we could kill him off in some horrible, dramatic fashion, and going into Series 2, or Season 2, as we say in the States, going into at that point, Walter White would be very upset and desire revenge and feel very guilty. These would all be great engines for further drama. But as soon as I got to know Aaron Paul, who we hired to play Jesse, as soon as I got to realize what a wonderful person he was, and what a wonderful young actor he was, I thought to myself, I'd just be cutting off my nose to spite my face. I don't know what the right expression is, but I'd be crazy, in other words, to stick rigidly with my original plan. Part of the great thing about collaboration, the collaboration I was speaking of a minute ago, is that the best idea should win the day, no matter where it came from, no matter what voice spoke it in the first place. It's good to remain flexible and open-minded and cull those good ideas from any and every source that they may come from. And it was just obvious to all of us that we should not be rigid in our prior planning and our thinking that, you know, we get rid of this character for some dramatic reason. There was more drama and more excitement and more fun to be had by keeping this character around.
One thing that strikes me about the show is when you watch it all the way through, which I probably did in a 2-week period. I lost my connection to my children, my family, you know, the occasional sickie off work, the love of those long flights where I could download 4 episodes onto the iPad. Anyway. But
thank you.
The interweaving of the narrative is particularly clever in the way that you fade back in time, the way you have very well-developed characters, not just the one, but all of them, and you are able to interweave different stories. How do you achieve that practically? Do you have a team of screenwriters that you manage on a daily basis? I mean, how is that made possible, that complexity?
Again, this wonderful collaboration. It's all about hiring the right people and then empowering them, instilling them with enthusiasm. Part of the way I think you do that is by giving everyone a sense of ownership. Everyone should feel a share, it seems to me, in the task at hand, in the work at hand. I had 6 excellent writers, and I told them every chance I could, and they knew innately that I couldn't do the job without them. That they gave so much value added to the show. It would have been, if I was even capable of writing just one person by myself all of the episodes in the time allotted, it still would not have been a shadow, a fraction of the show that we wound up with, because all these excellent writers just added, we all added up to greater than the sum of our parts.
And how many did you have on the show, Vince?
Writers, we had 7 counting me, so we had, there were 7 of us. And we had, you know what else we had? We had the time to think things through. That's one thing I love in particular about cable television, certainly here in the States, cable versus network. Cable television here gets an appreciation for being able to be a little more R-rated, as we say. You have a little more, you can show nudity, you can have more curse words, all that kind of stuff. That's not what makes it more fun for me. That stuff, great. That's just, you know, as far as the bad words, the curse words go, you know, that's silly, and you know, that stuff, that's what's important. What I love about cable TV in the States versus network is that you have fewer episodes and therefore more time to construct each episode. That's really what held us in good stead through the years. We had more time to take a breather and sit back and think. We only had 13 episodes in our you know, and the seasons with the highest number of episodes, the number only went to 13. Some seasons it was 8. And we would have, on average, about 3 weeks per episode to figure these things out, which you never get that in network in the States. You have 22 to 24 episodes, and you're always fighting for your life time-wise. And that's what I really love about cable over here.
Okay, now let's just move quickly to the sort of economics of the business. Each episode costs, what, roughly about $3 million to make? Is that about right?
Thereabouts, yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so when I was with Steve Moscow in Singapore recently, he told me, he's the head of Sony Pictures Television, he told me that Jeffrey Katzenberg had offered $75 million just for the last 3 episodes. Is that true?
That is. I was sitting with Steve, Zach Van Amberg, and Jamie Wrigley, the two gentlemen I mentioned earlier, and I was with them at the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and with Steve Mosco, their boss, and Brian and Aaron. We were celebrating I think it was our Emmy win, and Jeffrey Katzenberg happened by, and he said, I think he specifically wanted to know if we would do 3 extra episodes that were not already covered under AMC's contract. He said, if you can do those, I can get you $75 million for them. Very exciting to hear that. And I think his idea of how to monetize that was to break this, in that case would have been about just under 3 hours, 2.5 hours worth of program, break that 2.5 hours up into either 2 or 3 minute segments, put those out once a day or once a week or whatnot on the internet, so that you'd have to watch these 2.5 hours of programming in 2-minute chunks. I think people would have gone nuts, honestly. I think people would have rebelled having to wait that long to, it was an interesting idea on paper. I'm not sure how well it would have worked, but he's a pretty visionary guy. He's pretty smart. I wouldn't have preferred to watch it that way myself as a viewer, but
I mean,
it was a neat idea.
Breaking it down into those chunks might be tough for the creative process, but it's fair to say that social media and streaming video on demand were the saviors of the show, I guess. And that created the viral nature, which made it not just a US phenomenon, because 10 million viewers is good for cable, but it became a global phenomenon. So what do you have to say about the viral nature of the show? How did that help you?
We, through nothing I did consciously, we nonetheless got very lucky with our timing. I'd love to take credit for it. I had nothing to do with it, but we got very lucky with our timing with Breaking Bad. Around about season 2 or so of Breaking Bad, series 2, streaming video on demand as a technology really came available. I guess it existed before that, but it really truly became ubiquitous and very available in as typified or exemplified by Netflix and by iTunes and by Amazon streaming and so forth. Suddenly, people could catch up at their convenience, night or day, with this very hyper-serialized show that was Breaking Bad. The conventional wisdom, certainly in the United States in television, certainly when I started off on the X-Files 15, almost 20 years ago, was that serialized television was something to be avoided. It did not repeat well. And of course, back in the day, but 20 years ago when I started, all you had was the initial airing, and then you had reruns. And serialized shows did not rerun well because people couldn't stay abreast of them. But now with this SVOD technology, people can catch up anytime they want, and it's really changed the business. And it really, it allowed us to become the hit that we became. It allowed us to become a centerpiece of a focal point of conversation. And
as a writer,
wonderful time.
As a writer, Vince, the finale, I think, had 23 million interactions on Facebook. As a writer, do you now have to start thinking about those interactions when you go back to the creative process of creating a show and writing the script?
Being a showrunner is an interesting job because there's not one way to do it. Everyone has their own way of doing it, and that's one of the things I like about it. The way it works for me personally is that I don't really partake of. I got to be honest here. I don't really partake of all of this social media. I don't use Facebook. I don't Twitter. I don't do those things. I think they're amazing technologies, and I've got folks who run other TV shows over here in the States who are religiously on social media during and after their episodes of their TV series air, and they are gathering opinions and thinking, gee, people seem to like this bit people don't like that character. It can be a very interactive process. For me, it's a little too interactive. My writers and I, we try to keep a more hermetically sealed writer's room, if you will. We try to be the first and best fans of our own show, if that makes sense. We tell a story to make ourselves happy, and we're pretty tough critics of that story, and that worked well for us for 62 episodes of Breaking Bad.
There were about 500,000 illegal downloads of Breaking Bad in Australia, which goes to show that studios and distributors need to start thinking more globally.
Yeah.
Because social media is, you're going to end up the situation where people are going to ruin your finales because social media chatter. So that really does challenge the distributors and the content makers now, doesn't it?
It does indeed, Charlie. It does point to the need for, what's the expression, day and date. I mean, it really does nowadays need to be available all over the globe at the same time, because otherwise you have good loyal fans in Australia who are waiting to, for instance, to see it, and you don't want the finale to get ruined for them by something they read on social media or whatnot. And we would love to have all that money, I'm not going to lie, from those illegal downloads, but I can't really blame people for doing it if the companies are not providing it within a somewhat timely fashion. I kind of get why people do it. So
now we're drawing this to a close. Unfortunately, we're running tight for time. But you now have a number of obvious spin-off projects. Better Call Saul is now going to be a global thing, and there's going to be re-scripting, refilming of a Breaking Bad specifically for the Latin American market. But my question, and please feel free to tell us a bit more about them, but the question is, do you feel scared that you won't achieve the heights that you've managed with Breaking Bad? And is it going to be tough to maintain the fantastic level that you've now found yourself?
Oh, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I have lost a lot of sleep over. It's a weird thing. Nothing really prepares you for success in life. My philosophy is we only learn from our mistakes. We only learn from screwing up. When we succeed, which for all of us I think is a little more rare, certainly is more rare for me. I don't know what lesson to take away from the success of Breaking Bad, to be honest. I worked real hard on it. I had a lot of wonderful people working with me very hard, but everybody works hard in all of their successes and failures. I don't know what lesson to take away. I just know that I need to relax, I guess. I tell myself that every day. I tell myself, you know what, go forward on the spin-off, Better Call Saul, go forward in the other projects in your future with enthusiasm and passion, and work hard at them, and then the chips will fall where they may. There's no controlling whether, past a certain point, whether something is a success or not. You just have to go forward with passion. The trouble, as I said earlier, with passion is the more passionate you are, the more it hurts when the object of that passion fails. But what the heck other choice do you have? You got to go forth with passion. Otherwise, what's the point of anything?
We're all still trying to imagine how such a genuinely lovely man can imagine a scene where a chap gets dumped into a bath of acid and distilled down to a red mulch.
Well, write what you know. That's what they say, right?
Vince, it's been an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to draw this conversation to a close. I hope you found it insightful and interesting to meet the man behind Breaking Bad. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vince Gilligan.
Arrivederci.